Wham! Talk 1600. We're here every Sunday for you from 2 to 5 Eastern. But it doesn't start and stop on Sundays in 2 to 5. Nope. We are available 24/7. It's like I was in practice medicine for 32 years as an orthopedic surgeon. It's like I'm back on call again. We are available for you 24/7 at the following locations. Our YouTube channel, also named Operation Freedom, same as the radio show. So go to YouTube, youtube.com, Operation Freedom. We're still there. I upload usually 2 new YouTube presentations every week, usually every Tuesday and every Friday, usually at 8 a.m. And we're also available 24/7 at davejanda.com. We have the free, the public side, where we upload information on a regular basis. But we'll hope you want to become a member of our Freedom family. Our subscribers have access to information that, well, they see it now, and then a couple, 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, here it comes perking out a little bit through other sources. And that's because of the information I bring forward from the context I've developed over 30 years. When I first went to Washington in 1988 to work on healthcare policy, I, over time, got to meet a number of patriots behind the curtain who were fighting against, actually, the deep state. We didn't call it quite the deep state back then. We called it the syndicate or the New World Order crowd. But these were folks behind the curtain fighting for every American's freedom. And now it's come out in the open over the past couple years. So when I started the show back in October 31st of 2010, I spoke about the deep state in my first show, and many people called our general manager, Linda Hughes, said, yeah, this is a great show, but God, this is a lot of conspiracy theory, talking about something called the deep state. Well, yeah, and we were right. And we continue to push against the deep state. I have been, for the past 3 years, well, coming up on 3 years, I have spoken about how the deep state targeted a particular patriot, General Michael Flynn. He was targeted because he had the audacity to tell the truth about what the Obama administration was doing. He was the individual who came forward years prior, behind closed doors in front of a congressional committee, and spoke about how the Obama administration was integrally involved in the weapons running operation that led to the, if you will, power base, if you will, of ISIS. Yeah, that's right. He then supported then Citizen Trump, who became President-elect Trump, who then became President Trump, as you know. And the first individual that the deep state targeted was General Michael Flynn. I have contended since January of 2017 that General Flynn is an innocent man who was targeted because of his honesty. It took a phenomenal attorney, someone I consider a friend, by the name of Sidney Powell, who has blown this wide open. But it has also taken an amazing patriot in General Michael Flynn and his wife and his family to withstand, I'm not using the word prosecution, the persecution of an innocent man. I don't know of another family, another man, that could have withstood what the deep state has done to all of them. It is my honor to have with me someone I also consider a friend, Barbara Flynn Redgate. She is the proud sister of retired Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, General Mike Flynn. And she is the trustee of the Mike Flynn Legal Defense Fund. Now, a real quick way to get there, just go to davejanda.com. We have an article about Sidney Powell and General Flynn right toward the top of the homepage, but we also have a link to the Defense Fund. Barbara is a retired high school physics teacher. She served the students for 30 years. She's the wife of a retired naval aviator. She's the mother of 3 daughters. One daughter is currently a Navy doctor, another a Navy veteran married to a naval officer, and a third who works for a large hospital in San Diego. Barbara is also the proud sister of 7 other siblings. I must say that as strong and as tough as General Michael Flynn is, his family, his wife, and his siblings are equally as tough and incredible patriots. Barbara, welcome to Operation Freedom.
Hey, Dave. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. It's great to hear Dave's voice and to be with you this Sunday afternoon. And out in San Diego. I hope you guys can hear me okay.
Sounds
good. Can you hear my voice okay, Dave?
Yes.
I hope I'm loud enough.
Our country and the world actually hear you loud and clear. We have listeners in all 50 states, Barbara, and in over 60 countries that either download the show or listen live to the show over the internet. Barbara, I want to talk about, I want to start on a couple issues first. You are the trustee of the Michael Flynn Legal Defense Fund. Educate our listeners on the Defense Fund and the website and the importance of the Defense Fund.
Okay. Well, so what happened was on December 1st of 2017, when General Flynn took that bullet in court, my brothers and sisters and I decided we had to do something fast. So I'll just say the date again because this weekend marks 1,000 days. So December 1st, 2017, General Mike took a bullet in court. And after that, it wasn't before that, but right after that, we now have massive amounts of information that have been released to the public, and it's still unraveling every day. And it's all about this deep state plot designed to undermine America and overthrow our duly elected president. So anyway, there were all kinds of things going on, and my brothers and sisters and I got together and we said, we said to Mike, General Mike, we've got to do something now. We've got to do something fast. And we said, let us create a legal defense fund. So we went through a whole group of attorneys to help us create the document, and we started this legal defense fund. We had to do something to fight back. And we're a family. It's family and faith forever, but we stick together, and we knew exactly what Mike stood for and was standing up for. He had the courage to stand up and tell us exactly what was happening. He's the only one at that high level that had the courage to do that. So anyway, we created the Mike Flynn Legal Defense Fund, and it's become it's thank God for all the great American patriots, hardworking patriots out there. We never would have been able to sustain these 3 years without everybody helping us. So it's really turned into a rallying point, where we all have rallied around the Legal Defense Fund, whether it's people sending us emails of prayers and messages and cards. 3 years of fighting an unfathomable corrupt government that none of us could ever imagine was happening in our own country. So yeah, that's really, we started it. We said, Mike, he's such a humble person, and really, we forced him to do this. We were like, we've got to fight this, So yeah, here we are, 3 years later, and we had an angel come into our life, Sidney Powell, and everything has, she has just really flipped the switch on everybody. So thank God she's in our lives right now. And yeah, here we are fighting, this long. So it's because of everybody's help, Dave. That's why we've sustained this. So I can't thank people enough. It's overwhelming sometimes.
The website is Mike Flynn, 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 defensefund.org, O-R-G. And it's a great website. You have ways you can contact, ways you contribute information. Barbara, in addition to, and the money that comes into the defense fund is used for the defense of General Flynn. You can imagine
every month it's like $300,000, and at least $150,000. We've paid like at least close to $4 million now. That's what they do. The government has unlimited resources. I've sat in the courtroom and I've seen the the swamp, the deep state swamp dwellers, and they're pretty frightening. They have, they confiscate all your everything you have. They take every drop of blood you have, and they try to trick you into, making false statements and all of this stuff. So, yeah, I was just going to say something about the Legal Defense Fund. If you go to that website, at the very bottom, it gives you an address to send messages to General Mike, to send directly to General Mike. And he loves to hear from people. What he does is I get them, and then I forward them all to him, and he reads every single message. It gives him great strength and comfort to hear from all the hardworking patriots around the country. He actually saves them, and he really wants to put, if anything, he's going to put a book together with all the messages that people have sent him to help him get through this. But I believe this was his destiny. When he was a child, and throughout our life, my mother always, sensed something different. There was always something different about General Mike, and I was just I won't get into that, but I will if you want me to. But I thought maybe you want to ask me some other questions about the Legal Defense Fund before I get sidetracked.
Well, right now, Barbara, in addition, this week coming up on Thursday, November 14th, there is actually a live auction on YouTube to generate support funding for the Defense Fund. I believe the YouTube channel is Deacon, Deacon, Deacon TV, correct?
Yeah.
So educate our listeners
cool.
educate our listeners, Barbara, on the auction and
Okay.
how this is going to go.
Okay. It's really great because a couple of guys reached out to us, like many people have reached out to us, and one guy runs a YouTube channel, and he's a great patriot. And another guy is an artist. He makes these incredible prints. So these two guys, they said, "Hey, Barbara, we'd like to do an auction on behalf of your brother." And so we're going to do another one. The first one we did was kind of we've never done anything like this before, where we had prints auction via PayPal, and I would then check to see and they would bid, and then I would check to see the PayPal account. So anyway, it's worked out, and we're going to do it again. And even if people don't want to bid on the prints, it's just another time for all of us to connect and be a patriot family together, to just, give each other support as we, fight to save our country. And so, yeah, it's November 14th. It starts at 6 p.m., and we'll get the message out on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, you can go to Deacon TV and just look it up and and have fun. Join us. And the last time we had Deacon TV had Juanita Broderick on the other day, and you can Google Deacon TV talks with Juanita Broderick, and it's what he did was he let her tell her story. She's a great friend of General Mike's and a great supporter of ours, and she just wanted to get on and say thank you to everybody and keep supporting General Mike. And she went into her whole story, and it is an incredible story. Like, she talks for an hour, so it wasn't just some quick, 2-minute interview you do on a regular channel. He let her talk, so it was really great. And then Robert Dobby's another great supporter of General Mike's, and he's a great, tough guy, and he was on talking about supporting General Mike. So yeah, November 14th, we're going to try it again, and just we'll auction some prints. It's no big deal. You don't have to bid anything. You can just say hello. We all, my brothers and sisters and I, we all kind of call in, and we just have fun. It's a Saturday night, and we go for like 3 hours. We just keep talking, So
No, I think it's Thursday. It's Thursday. It's Thursday, November 14th, right?
Yes.
Right, 7 p.m. Eastern. Now, Barbara, let's talk about your brother, General Mike, as you call him.
Yes.
Let's lay the foundation, and we're going to get into, because we're going to go an extra half hour on this today, because it's this important, Barbara. I want to lay the foundation. Educate our listeners about your brother, Mike Flynn. When he was growing up, tell us about the man. Tell us about his values. Tell us about what we all look at those around us in our family,
Sure.
and there are certain points about each member of our family where we go, this person is so amazing in my family because of the following. Educate us about the person and the man, Mike Flynn.
Okay, so when we were growing up, when we were children growing up in a 1,200 square foot house with 9 kids, and we had 2 amazing parents, and we grew up right next to the ocean in Middletown, Rhode Island. Of course, we never dreamed we would be faced with this, situation we're currently enduring. And while we had very little financial means, we were blessed to be raised by 2 incredible people who instilled strong values, high expectations, and service to country. My father was the son of a World War I vet and an Irish immigrant mother, and he was 18, and he joined the Army in 1943, and he was in Patton's Army and went to Korea, and then they moved back to Newport, Rhode Island while he was a master sergeant in the Army when he retired in 1963. So my dad was the compassionate one. My mother was really the brains of the outfit. She was the valedictorian of her class and so on, and her dad was also a chief at the Newport Naval Base in Newport, Rhode Island. My parents were great role models. And after my dad served his country, of course, he came home and became a local. He worked as a banker. And my mother went on to teach. She sold real estate. She got her law degree while she raised 9 of us. And we were very competitive kids during the 60s and the 70s. And that's not an easy time with teenagers. So at my house, any of our friends or relatives that came to our cookouts knew that they had better come with ideas and arguments and in order, because you're always going to have some lively political debate that would always be raging at my house. And it was just like 57 Tuckerman Avenue organized chaos, and we used to call it the Sea Lodge. But we grew up really happy and healthy. Of course, the ocean was our sanctuary. And Newport, Rhode Island, I don't know if you've ever been there. It's the most beautiful place on the East Coast.
It is.
So it was a beautiful place to grow up. And, of course, we were surrounded by the ocean. So we swam, we surfed, we lifeguarded, we jumped off cliffs. We listened to all kinds of great music, played sports, and drove our parents ragged, with all our activities. But my mother, when it came to education, my mother was the intellectual of our family, and she was the enforcer. And there wasn't any room for any slouches or whiners. And we went to Catholic schools. That's back when they were free. And the nuns, they had carte blanche over all of us, but they were great teachers. And we were very far from perfect, but we grew up with a strong sense of accomplishment. And my parents went to everything. They stood very proudly with all of us. And we did have a sister that passed away. And so just to kind of give you a picture of how Mike grew up, he's in the middle. He's the middle child. So we really didn't have very little preparation for the situation our family finds ourselves in now. But our parents, we were very poor, but we have 4 successful businessmen. And then my other brother is a general as well. I don't know if any of you guys know my brother Charlie is a 3-star general. So I just have to pause for a minute because he is he's in D.C. right now. He's going in and out of the congressional buildings and the Pentagon, and here he is with a big Flynn tag on and 3 stars, and he looks just like Mike. So that must blow some of their, their minds when they see him walking around. So here's Charlie. So in a family of ours, I'm so proud of it that, a very poor, large family, 2 generals came out of it. And they're really the first 2 brothers that were generals serving together since the Civil War. And, so I'm really proud of that. But I used to brag to my mom about, Mike just made, colonel, and now he's a general. And she'd say, Barbara, we are never to brag about this. You have to be, this is serious business, she used to say. So I feel like, because she was very protective of Mike, and as he moved up through the ranks and became in a more visible, more serious, position, she was very cautious and very careful with us, not to brag and to stay humble. So I hope that paints a better picture of Mike. So she must have had a premonition about his destiny. She's just one of those kind of people that, whatever came out of her, whatever she had to say was like very important to listen to. So I think she just saw that, there was going to be something very serious that he was going to face in his life. So, I hope that helps you understand a little bit of Mike,
Folks, we're speaking with Barbara Flynn Redgate. She is the proud sister of retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. She is the trustee of the Mike Flynn Legal Defense Fund, MikeFlynnLegalDefenseFund.org. So, Barbara, let's fast forward. General Flynn, General Mike, your brother, ended up supporting citizen Donald Trump. Did his support surprise you that he supported Donald Trump?
Okay, so what happened was, General Mike leaves his last position as the director of the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, in 2014. 2016 presidential election was just starting to heat up. And as a patriot and knowing what he knew, his number one priority was to serve America. And he knew, he had to make his voice heard. He knew we were heading. So during that time, many candidates reached out to him for advice on national security, and he gladly responded. And Donald Trump was one of those candidates. And little did he realize at the time that his efforts in helping President Trump would result in this horrible thing he's facing now. But I remember Carly Fiorina and Ted Cruz. But they just hit it off. President Trump and my brother, they just hit it off, and they became great partners for that whole year during the campaign. And and so he was so glad. And again, we have to, President Trump must win again. We are in. I'll never forget him warning us. This is our last shot. Well, this is our last shot right now as well. This next election. So. I hope that helps you understand where he fit in as far as the campaign. They were asking him about his, national security, national security advice.
And he was someone who was feared, and he was someone who was targeted by the deep state because of, as I mentioned early in your introduction, because of what he had done and essentially blew the whistle on what the Obama administration had been up to. Barbara, we're going to hold you for the next half hour. We're going to take a hard break here for the news, and we're going to be right back, folks. We're talking to the fantastic Barbara Flynn Redgate. You're listening to Operation Freedom. Dr. Dave Janda broadcasting from our Freedom Bunker here at Wham Talk 1600. We're also available on our YouTube channel, also named Operation Freedom. Upload a couple new YouTubes every week, usually every Tuesday morning by 8, every Friday morning by 8. We're also available at davejanda.com, the public site, also the subscription site. Hope you'll become part of our Freedom family. I'm honored to have back with me for a second half hour Barbara Flynn Redgate. She is the proud sister of retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn and the trustee of the Mike Flynn Legal Defense Fund, MikeFlynnDefenseFund.org. Barbara is a retired high school physics teacher for 30 years. She's the wife of a retired naval aviator, mother of 3 fantastic daughters, and the proud sister of 7 other siblings. Barbara, I want to fast forward now. President Trump wins election in November 2016. Your brother, General Mike, was at his side throughout the campaign. Very soon after President Trump was elected president, your brother, General Michael Flynn, was named his national security advisor. General Flynn was involved, as everyone in Washington, well, not everyone, they're the Adam Schiffs of the world, but anyone with any common sense, anyone with any sense of historical background, General Mike was contacted by a number of different foreign dignitaries because he was coming in as the new national security advisor. He took those calls. He answered the calls when they came, and did everything by the book and very appropriately. Yet very soon after President Trump was inaugurated in January 2017, in particular January 24, 2017, General Michael Flynn was ambushed at the White House by the FBI. Educate our listeners on your take of what happened and what has transpired since.
Okay, so we now know, and these are all facts, that Comey has been on regular TV bragging about the White House was brand new, and he didn't follow the correct protocol, which is to notify that 2 FBI agents are going to come in, do an interview, and he should have contacted the legal team at the White House. So General Mike thought that these 2 guys were coming in, and he actually showed them around, showed them his office, and, was just talking to them about how they can improve or whatever. And we're going to hear about that later. But the 2 guys are Joe Pientka and Peter Strzok. And now we know, and I'll just kind of fast forward to where we're at now, because I know a lot of people have been following this, but because thank God for Sydney's hard work, she leaves no stone unturned. She has had them turn over at least 5 different copies of their supposedly 302s, and now we know they changed the names on them, they changed statements that he made on them, so they lied to the court about these 302s. So they were trying to create a narrative. When one of the original 302s that I have a hold of has General Flynn was not lying. And that is a document that anybody can get on the internet. You go on Twitter and find it, but it's out there. And so they took that. So we've never seen the original 302. So another part of it is Joe Pientka, based on the 302s and the information, Peter Strzok's testimony, he was the person that did the questioning, and Pientka was the one that took the notes. So all of a sudden you have this detailed 302, and it's dated, in February when the ambush was the 24th. So we now know that these guys for 18 months knew, and Van Grock, who is the lead prosecutor for the government, he just admitted in a letter to Sydney that they changed the names on the 302s, and it's been over 18 months. So you can imagine, how sick we felt knowing all this time these guys have lied to the court. And, of course, the original 302 has never been given to us. So, and General Mike has never listened to his transcript. Sydney and General Mike have never been given his original transcript of his call. Imagine that. So it's all he said, she said. So these 2 FBI agents go in, and they can accuse you of knowingly making a false statement. And so here he is. He didn't say anything wrong. They ambush him. They create all these, 4 or 5 different 302s, which that's the other thing Sydney would like to have. She wants all the metadata, attached to those 302s. Metadata means everybody that came, the original draft, the 1A file, and any FBI document that identifies everyone who had possession of that original 302 and the parts that were leaked to the press, but the full original has never been produced, and neither has the official transcript that the legal call he had with Kislyak. So, we still to this day don't have that. So, and then any information also that would be given to Sally Yates on January 24th, and 25th of that same ambush. So all those documents, and then there's another thing, Nellie Orr's testimony, which I can get into. But so just to throw a tidbit out that a lot of people don't know, Joe Pientka, we've never heard from him. We've never heard any testimony. There's been no congressional testimony. I don't know if Barr or Durham have ever interviewed him. And Joe Pienko plays a major part in this whole coup. He was Bruce Orr's FBI handler. Bruce Orr is number 4 at the DOJ at the time. His wife's working for Fusion GPS. She used to make up her fake Russian information, put it on a flash drive, bring it to her husband, Bruce Orr at the DOJ. Bruce Orr would go to his handler, Joe Pienko. This is the summer before the election. This is the summer of 2016 before Donald Trump and General Flynn are in the White House. So Pienko was Bruce Orr's handler, and they also would brief Weissman. They briefed Weissman on the fake Russian dossier. So I just wanted to kind of make that picture of who this Pienko character is. So Joe Pienko, as far as I know, and as far as, everything I've heard from all my great sources, Sydney included, I don't know if Pienko's ever been interviewed. And he plays a major part, Dr. Dave. Can you imagine we haven't heard an official, message or transcript, or he hasn't been under oath? That's why I get so mad at Lindsey Graham. I mean, to me, these guys are blowholes. If they're not calling these guys in,
right.
they're making noise. It's like 3 years of noise. So I call them blowholes because it's like, why are you going to bring in Horowitz? We need to hear from Pienko, from Comey, from Yates, from Rice. We know everything now. Bring Strzok back in. Bring Clapper back in. And, of course, bring Brennan back in. So just to throw out Pienko and his part in the whole thing. So he was Bruce Orr's FBI handler. And again, Weissman and Ahmad Zainab, who went on to be on Mueller's special coup, team, posse, if you want to call it that, they were briefed on the fake Russian dossier before the election. So they knew it was fake. Yet, and I'm bringing that up because, again, not to just talk about Pienko, but the Horowitz report's coming out. And I thought I'd roll through a little bit of the Horowitz report. And where do I get all this information? Well, if you want to know who signed all those FISAs, the main players, because a lot of people signed those FISAs. That's what people are forgetting. It was the first Devin Nunes memo, also called the House Intel memo. It was released February 2nd of 2018. That is, and if you listen to this podcast again, you can hear that it's called the House Intel memo. It lists who the main players were in those FISAs on Carter Page. And I'll just say their names because I pray to God that this Horowitz report comes out. I mean, I'm keeping my expectations low because until we see these people indicted, we're still under a full-blown coup. I mean, people are still spying on the president. It's so frightening to know that General Mike is not there with him and protecting him. And, I mean, he's the only one. They had to get rid of him. They had to get rid of General Mike. He was going to audit all those intel. He's the only person capable of dismantling this intelligence weaponization that we have right now. And it really does frighten me. And I can't wait for him to get back. His job is not over, Dr. Dave. And I know a lot of people are listening out there. We need him. We need him to back in this fight to keep us, to let us know what we are facing and what we can do about it to help us survive this horrible nightmare that we're going through with this, these smear campaigns and the worst political, fueled smear campaign and coup in modern history. So, and no one can prepare themselves for this. So anyway, so that was Pienko. But I want to just talk about the FISA real quick before we run out of time. So we know that McCabe signed one. Comey, they signed a couple. McCabe, Comey, everybody forgets about the last one was Rosenstein. I call him Redactenstein. He's not a good, people like to call him like a good guy. He's not good guys out there. I mean, he wanted to invoke the 25th Amendment. He has kept so much information from Devin Nunes and there's a lot of other things going on there. So he signed one of the FISAs, the last one. Sally Yates, of course, and then Dana Buente. I'm just going to throw out Dana Buente. Do you know who Dana Buente is, Dr. Dave?
I do. Educate our listeners as well, because he did sign one of those what are I believe is going to be shown to be illegal FISA warrants.
Yeah, I mean, you signed those under oath, saying that everything you are, you're confirming that all the information you're submitting to this secret court, which allows American citizens to be spied on, is truthful. And that's perjury. Under oath of perjury, it says it on the form. So this guy, Dana Boente, well, when Sally Yates got fired for not following a presidential order, we were trying to, secure the borders and everything, and she got fired. Who took over for Sally Yates? It was Dana Boente. So he becomes the acting attorney general, and you can go read about him. He is not a good character. Well, guess where he is now? He's over at the FBI. He is Christopher Wray. I call him Worthless Ray. He's Worthless Ray's chief counsel. He's the FBI's chief counsel. That guy signed a FISA. I mean, it's like, so I'm anxious. Maybe they say before Thanksgiving that the Horowitz report is coming out, but we'll see. We'll see. So, yeah, so those are the characters that we need to be. And Boente, he's been sneaking, no one's been bringing his name up. I think I'm the only one that says half of these names to these characters. So, yeah.
Folks, we're speaking with Barbara Flynn Redgate. Barbara, when you boil all this down, this does not, it seems as though this is something from East Germany before the wall falling. It's something from Mao's China, Soviet Russia, because here's the bottom line. General Michael Flynn was ambushed, and Comey admits that. He sent these guys over to ambush him, Patinka and Strzok. They interview him, and as you point out, they even admit that your brother, General Michael Flynn, didn't lie. When the FBI interviews somebody, as you mentioned, they fill out 302 forms. They are obligated to turn that 302 form in, which is usually one for an interview, within 5 days of the interview occurring. General Mike's interview occurred on January 24, 2017. As you mentioned, as Sidney Powell has put out there, that his original attorneys did not, by the way, that the original has never been produced. Yet there are 4 more that were produced. February 10th, 2017, not within the 5 days. February 11th, February 14th, February 15th. Lisa Page, Strzok's main squeeze, admits to editing. Now the government has come out and said, well, what we thought were Patinka's notes were really Strzok's notes, and they were edited, but we can't tell you about the original. Well, we can't find the original. Come on, they can't find the original. But the entire predicate for the persecution of General Mike Flynn was based on the 302s. The 302s are a fraud to the point where Sidney Powell tweeted the other day, so let me get this straight. Van Grack, who's now the lead prosecutor, who, by the way, Deborah Curtis used to be the lead prosecutor, but was removed as the lead prosecutor September 27th, and also left the Department of Justice on that same day, about 6 o'clock at night. This was after an article was published about a real whistleblower and someone who has spoken about illegal surveillance. An article was published, and then Sidney retweeted that article an hour later, around 2 in the afternoon on that Friday, September 27th. The next thing you know, Deborah Curtis is gone. Well, Sidney now tweets, so let me get this straight. Van Grack, who's the prosecutor du jour, has given us false or wrong information in a federal court proceeding for 18 months. But General Flynn is supposed to be a felon for a made-up, quote, false, end quote, statement, of which the 2 guys interviewing him said it wasn't false, from an ambush interview, and the FBI had no legal basis to conduct.
Right. I mean, he Mike had no reason not to talk to these guys about everything. So it's all, the thing is they lied to the court. And I just want to kind of talk about Van Grack for a minute.
Go ahead.
Van Grack is now in charge of the FARA department in the National Security Division. And I think I'll just, if you don't mind me explaining the whole FARA thing.
Yeah, please explain FARA, because it plays a role in this case as well.
It took me a couple of years to understand it because, So anyway, there's two government forms. So when Mike retired from the DIA, he did a lot of speaking tours. And he always briefed the DIA whenever he spoke to any international people, any government people, he briefed the DIA before and after. We know that for a fact. And Sydney's still looking for those forms, too, as well, from the government. But anyway, there's two forms you fill out. One form is they're government forms, Lobbying Disclosure Act. Another form is called a Foreign Agent Registration Act. If you work directly for the government of another country, let's say you're going to work for the government of Japan to, help bring, new crops from Japan over to the United States. You're an American company, and you're going to work with the government of Japan. You have to file a Foreign Agent Registration Act. Okay, so the FARA department is like a totally politically corrupt department. It was under David Laufman. Go look him up sometime. He's bad news.
Bad.
And now Van Grok is running that department. So kind of fast forward to Hunter Biden. So Hunter Biden takes millions of dollars from the Ukrainian government and millions of dollars from the Chinese government. He's never filed a FARA form, so that is illegal. So what they did with Mike, they said, you knowingly falsified your FARA document. Well, Mike didn't even have to file a FARA document. He trusted the original law firm that he had, which was the number one FARA filing law firm in the country, and they failed him. And thank God we were able to fire them. And the only reason we were able to fire them was because the Mueller report, Mueller was finally on TV and made a complete fool out of himself, and we knew it was awful. So once that ended, General Mike knew his family was safe, and then he could fire those lawyers who really did a horrible thing because all he did was write an article on Gulen, a terrorist living in our country with all these charter schools, and he brought it to the attention of the American people. Well, because his lawyers gave him bad advice, he thought they told him he needed to file FARA. He wasn't working for a Turkish government at all. He just, he needed to file maybe a Lobbying Disclosure Act. So the FARA form is another government weaponized tool. Now Van Grok is running that department where they can say you knowingly falsified a FARA form. So now what the media did was they spun it. They started to say, he's a foreign agent of Turkey. He's a Putin's puppet. I mean, it was like insane. And the case against his partner, so they went after his partner and they went after his son. And it was all based on this FARA filing, which is a government form, and they can turn it into your worst nightmare. Of course, they're never going to touch Hunter Biden or John Kerry's son, with all of their nefarious millions that they've received from other countries. It's really kind of sick when you stop to think. But Van Grok's in charge of that office now. So I don't know what Barr's thinking right now. I get a little nervous when I find things out like that, and I'm like, oh my God, people are going to get prosecuted, politically targeted again for their FARA filing. So.
And Barbara, in addition, General Flynn's fantastic attorney, Sidney Powell, got information and realized that, in fact, evidence that revealed the innocence of General Flynn was actually, it's called Brady material, was being withheld from General Flynn, his previous counsels, to this day, from Sidney Powell, although Sidney Powell has an idea about what exactly cards they might be holding back. But this is yet something from East Germany. Evidence that would have precluded him they knew as far as January 30th, 2017, that General Flynn was innocent.
I know. They didn't even have to file a FARA form.
That's right.
They didn't. And that then opened up a whole can of worms because General Mike's not familiar with a FARA form. He trusted these people.
Right.
We paid them, so that's a whole other, we get through this next, I hope and pray to God, the next couple of weeks, I don't know how Sullivan can't look at this and say, 18 months, you guys lied to us, and you guys, misrepresented you put the wrong names, you made misstatements on these forms, and you've never shown us the original ones. I mean, case dismissed, egregious government misconduct.
That's right. It's gross and blatant. It's gross and blatant prosecutorial misconduct.
Yeah. And here you have McCabe running around. He lied under oath 3 times, 4 times altogether. There's a whole IG report on him, just his lying, and they call it lack of candor, Dr. Dave. It drives me crazy. It's like, they don't call McCabe's on a book tour. He's not, he's walking around. It's like, to me, it's insane. So, if we don't get some indictments, I don't know. It's like,
and Barbara, I want to touch on this. General Flynn pled guilty. And many people say, well, wait a minute, if he's innocent in all these things, why did he plead guilty? It's because of huge pressure and pressure of threats against his own family, correct?
Oh, yeah. This is, when he pled guilty the first time, this was before we even had the struck page text messages. And he's like, you know what? They're going to put my family in jail. I mean, they'll come right in. Look at what they did to, like, Roger Stone. You have 40 SWAT FBI agents show up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Right. They take everything you have. So he could see the writing on the wall with what they were going to do. His son had a new baby. His son is working for him. And he just said, you know what? I'm not going to let this happen. And he didn't know, like his lawyers, they really were horrible and did a big disservice to him. And they weren't defense attorneys either. They were FARA lawyers. So he was protecting his son, thinking he was filling out, getting the FARA thing straightened out when really, that's the other disservice they did to him, that his previous lawyers did. And I have no problem, telling it like it is too. We used to, really, until that Mueller report came out, we were in a lockdown as far as what they could do to young Mike.
Barbara, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. MikeFlynnDefenseFund.org.